And we're live.
Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday.
I always have to think about what day it is too.
What day is it? It's Wednesday. So Monica and I are here to do a really awesome Facebook Live with you all about sharing our intimate and raw journeys with therapy recently. We really believe in the power of therapy and letting in more support into your life in order to heal and get to the next level, whatever the next level is for you in business or relationships or professionally, and just to be able to just share your truth. And so that's what we're going to do with you all today. We are the founders of Fearless Public Speaking. We work with business owners who have a message that are ready to find their voice and take their message to the masses and their business income to the next level. So yeah. Did you want to quickly introduce yourself, Monica, or did I do a good enough job there?
No, I think you knocked it out of the park. I don't need to add anything to it.
Monica's really been helping me with my elevator pitch, which she's so good at. And yeah, so it gets so much easier to tell people who you are, what you do, and how you serve them. And then it's so much more fun to sell and do Facebook Lives.
Yeah.
So therapy. So the reason when I first started doing therapy was when I went through a divorce a couple years ago, and it was really beneficial back then. And I wanted to get back into it, but I was always hesitant because it's finding a therapist that you really connect with and that you have similar values to can be difficult. And you know that I think a lot of times people say, how do you know when you need a therapist, and what's the difference between therapy and life coaching, like what Monica and I do? And therapy is to help you to work through unprocessed trauma from your past. And therapy is also a medical professional versus life coaches are not in the medical field. So as coaches, we don't diagnose, we don't prescribe medications, but certain type of therapist can do medications and different types of treatments and all of that. And so the reason I knew that I need therapy now at this time in my life is because I am, am I 8 months pregnant? Yeah.
Oh my God. Time flies.
Oh, wow, that's scary. Okay, so I'm 8 months pregnant. I was a labor and delivery nurse for 5 years. And I didn't realize how many traumatic births I experienced as a labor and delivery nurse. I, delivered lots of fetal demises, so babies who didn't make it, which that is just, I don't wish that upon anyone. I have been in emergency type of situations where usually the mom and baby was fine, but still, again, for me, very traumatic to be in that environment. And I've seen a lot of stuff over the years, and I didn't realize how much it affected me and impacted me until getting pregnant with my own child. And now I'm getting ready to have a home birth here in the beginning of May. And I just found myself recently just crying a lot and breaking down and getting emotional. And I've been taking these home birthing classes, and anytime that the couples will go around and talk about their traumatic birth stories in the hospitals, I just lose it. And so for me, that was a sign of, first of all, I think it's perfectly normal to have breakdowns and to cry and to be emotional. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but there was something inside of me that was saying, I need more help around this, because I can't. All the years that I was labor and delivery nurse, I saw hundreds of miracles and good things happen, and I can't feel and see that happiness right now. All I can focus on is the trauma. And so that was a sign to me to okay, now it's time to ask for more support. And I asked myself the question too of what's possible for me, what really is possible for me when I let myself heal in this deeper way and let in more support. And for me, I was like, I think it's really going to help me to have a more powerful birth experience. And it's going to help me to not have so much fear if I have to go into the hospital if something unexpected happens. And so that became very easy for me to say yes to. And then my birth instructor connected me with a therapist that specializes in birth traumas, and it just felt like the right time. And something that I like to coach people around is when you're making a big decision in your life, you really want to feel that decision in your body. And if it feels expansive, then it's a yes. If it feels constricted, then it's a no. And when I thought about working with Maria, this therapist, it felt very expansive. And it was still a little bit scary. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to spend some money because my insurance doesn't cover it. And I'm gonna have to be vulnerable with a person I don't know. But at the end of the day, it felt very expansive in my body. And so that's how I knew, okay, this is the next step in my journey. And I've been asking the universe for more support in this way. So I've had one session with her last week. We're going to keep having sessions a couple times a month till I deliver. And then I'm going to work with her after delivery as well, because postpartum depression is a real thing. And with the changing hormones and lack of sleep, I really want to make sure that I'm supported and I'm being on top of that. So again, I'm so grateful. I know a lot of times people can see, like, when you have to go to therapy, it's like, oh, is something wrong? And for me, it's like, I'm just so grateful that we have these type of people in our life that can help us, because we can only help ourselves so much. What's the saying? You can't do heart surgery on yourself. That's what my business coach says. And it's true. You can't do heart surgery on yourself. And I think when we try to do everything ourselves, that's when we get stuck. That's when we get overwhelmed. And this is why therapists and coaches are so beneficial, because they're this outside person that can see the things that we can't see and to help us to get quicker results, to feel better. So that's my story. Monica, I want to, hand it over to you so you can share your therapy story.
Oh, well, mine is ridden with a lot of negative emotions, I think, to start with. So if I back up, a lot of I started taking antidepressants when I was probably about 14, was diagnosed with depression and obsessive compulsive disorder. And what did doctors in the 90s do? They throw drugs at you, right? Like, oh, try this. Here's my whole cabinet of samples, and let's just have you try all these things. And, it's fine. Like, you check a little box on, do you have these symptoms? Oh, you check 9 out of 10. You got OCD. Here's a drug. Luckily, that's not really how it works anymore, thank God. But I was on antidepressants for 22 years until this past December, when I finally was able to taper off and have been off of them now for 2 months. So when I got to that point, I started thinking about getting additional help, but I don't have a great past with therapists. I'm going to be real for a minute. When I was about 15 years old and we moved here to Colorado, so they had changed insurance requirements so that at that point, if you wanted to go get your medications renewed from a previous state or whatever, you had to go be reevaluated and have someone re-prescribe the prescription for you. So I went to this man, and I was 15, 16 years old. And after my mom left the room, he proceeded to ask me about every sexual experience I'd ever had in detail. And I was very disturbed and creeped out by him. And I remember leaving there and telling my mom, I'll never see a male therapist again. I don't want to talk to a man. That was awful. I felt violated. And, I don't know that I was even fully open with my mom about what happened, but I just knew that I wasn't going to talk to another guy. And after that, I was like, I don't even want to talk to anyone if they're going to make me do stuff like this. So I tried out a couple therapists over the years. With my ex-husband, we went to 1 or 2 sessions, didn't really feel like that did anything. I went to someone on my own for a little bit. But what I found too is that, and I was talking to somebody recently about this, I'm really good at tricking therapists, because I can talk myself until the cows come home about how everything's great and I'm fine and I don't need any help or anything. And what I found, it was almost like the subconscious game of let's see if they believe me. And most of them seem to. They're like, oh, okay, we'll talk about a few things, but I wouldn't let them below that surface level because I never trusted any of them again. I even had a therapist that I saw for 5 or 6 years who was managing my medication as well. So I was required to keep going to her, but I felt like she couldn't keep up with me. She was older. And when I told her about polyamory, we spent the whole session me describing what that was and explaining it to her. And so it's just always felt like a waste of time for me. So when it came around to getting off of this medication, I was like, nah, I'll be fine, whatever. And I got off of it and it was fine for about a month. And then just a couple weeks ago, it really started to get bad. And it was mostly the anxiety that flared and the depression. The OCD, that was an old diagnosis. I still have minor symptoms, but it's pretty manageable. But the depression and the anxiety were what came up, and I was spiraling, like going into these shitholes of like self-deprecation and not being able to get out of it. And the anxiety was just like waking up with that pit in your stomach every day, and just all the time, like you couldn't breathe. And I remember being like, I got it, something's got to change. But I was really concerned with going to a therapist because I was like, this never worked for me before, why the hell would I do this again? So I reached out to my community and Transformation Academy, George Carroll's group, which is awesome. And they're an amazing family. And I had one woman named Jen that we got on a call, and she was like, yeah, I feel the same way as you. When I've gone to therapists in the past, like I feel like I can outsmart them. And she's like, but what about other kinds of therapy, not just traditional talk therapy? And she had mentioned EMDR, which it's like eye movement destabilization something. I'd have to pull it up, but it's a method where specifically focused on dealing with trauma, and they ground you through like different eye movements or focusing on like a safe scenario, but then you work through the trauma, and it's about reprogramming those experiences so that you can see them, and not have those emotional really really deep seated reactions like you might have in the past. And so I was like, oh, okay, if I can find somebody that overall, I didn't want to pay a whole ton, but I would if I had to. If I could find somebody I could go to and we connected, that was fine. And I really let down my guard some too, and was like, I'm going to actually be open to this experience. I'm going to just let it happen. Like, I need this support. And so I started going to my therapist, Hannah, last week. And she's very grounded, which is good for me because I need that grounding to like really bring me back down into the here and now. Presence is something that I've struggled with. And she's a little bit drier, like in her sense, which is nice. Like it's more of the straight face, but she still empathizes. And that was perfect for me. And I just knew right away that like, okay, this is going to work. She was real with me. She'll swear with me, which is great. But she even told me up front, she's like, it's going to suck, Monica, but like, it's going to be so much better afterwards. So we had our first official session yesterday. We haven't dug into the trauma stuff yet. We did a trauma history, which was really interesting. And I actually thought more stuff about my ex-husband was going to be more raw, but it was the stuff around my dad's death that I feel like is probably going to be the first things that need to get healed. And we just spent some time going through that, and then really grounding into like, they have you visualize a safe space and what it looks like, and they have you do some different exercises so you can stay tapped into that safe space, and just really connecting with that. The first session was all about connecting with that, because that's what you'll go back to every time when you're in the shit. And that's how you keep one foot here in the present while you're in the past or in the future, whatever it is. So I'm feeling really hopeful. In addition to that, my coach, George Carroll, does NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. We just had a session today that was really fucking powerful. And it's some similar techniques, I think, to the EMDR without, so much the eye movement, but with the focus on like feeling into your body and where are you feeling it and what is it deeper? What are the deeper things that you need to know? And reprogramming the way that you view it, and kind of taking a step outside your body and seeing that version of yourself that was there in the past and giving them the love and support they need to be able to step into this more powerful you. And I gotta tell you, like, just the way I feel today is so much more better, than I did even a day ago or a week ago. And I wouldn't have been able to do it alone. And I think that's one of me and Krista's biggest message, is that you can do it alone, but if you do, it's going to be a lot harder. And why would you want to, honestly? Sophia says, do you have to do EMDR in person, or could you do it virtually? Sophia, that's a good question. I actually don't know if they're virtual EMDR therapists. I would assume so. I don't think they have to be there in person, but I have to look into that.
Yeah.
But I think what Krista was saying too at the beginning, like I wasn't planning on making this point today, but I think it's a good one to make, is when we talk about therapy and coaching, and people aren't always clear on what the difference is. And, therapy is, well, I think most basic definition of what we talk about in coaching is like therapy really focuses on your past most of the time. Like what happened in the past, how do we heal that? And then coaching, sometimes we spend some time in the past because we want to understand what happened, but we're focused on how do we get you where you are now? So we've got to understand like what's holding you back, but then we're going to see where are we going from there. And sometimes you don't get there with therapy. Some therapists are integrating both approaches now, which I think is really cool. But that's kind of a key differentiator, other than what Krista mentioned about it being like medical versus not, or drugs versus.
And you can do both at the same time. Most of my clients actually a lot of times will start out working with me and then end up seeing a therapist because they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff here I didn't realize. So I think that's when you get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Because, right, you have someone working with you through the shit in your past and you have a coach helping you to move forward. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're on fucking fire. And it's amazing.
The more of a group, a tribe, whatever you want to call it, that you can build to surround you, not only your coaches, your therapist, just your people that you can reach out to and tell them when you're in the shit and that they're going to help pull you out of it. Like there's nothing better than that.
Two other things too I want to talk about is I noticed there's a lot of therapists who are leaving the therapy role to become life coaches because they don't feel comfortable with such heavy diagnosis and putting people in a box. And so there is kind of a big transition going on from that. I see like service providers and therapists, and they're wanting to become, either full-time coaches or part-time coaches. So that's kind of interesting to start to see that shift. And then something you said too, Monica, is you were worried about getting involved in therapy again because you said you felt like it didn't work in the past. And I've heard you say that before. And something I wanted to add is like the person that you were back then, you're not that person now. And I've heard a lot of people say that, I'll have to ask. So as a coach, you have to make sure you don't practice in the therapist role because that's out of our scope of practice. And when I notice like real traumatic things come up from my clients, I'll say, have you ever thought about working with a therapist again? And they're like, oh, I used to do that, but it didn't work. And again, like we can't compare our old self with our new self because our new self is so much more in a different space. And like you really can have several deaths and rebirths throughout your life. And so again, Monica, I'm so happy that you're giving yourself permission to, both of us, that we're giving ourselves permission to explore therapy again, despite whatever happened in the past, because who we are now is just so much different from back then.
Yeah, definitely. And I wasn't in a place then to deal with all that stuff either. You've got to get to a place where you're ready. And I think this applies to coaching too. Anyone who says like coaching didn't work, well, okay, maybe there's an element of it wasn't a good match, or maybe it wasn't the right person for them. But there's also that element, and Chris and I hear this all the time, if your yeah buts are stronger than your desire to actually do the damn thing, you're not going to move past the yeah buts unless you are ready for it. Like you can yeah but till the cow comes home, but if I hear you do it about 1 million times, I'm probably going to call you out on it. And if you can't move past it, then you're what we like to call not coachable a lot of times. And that's a thing. You can be not therapyable, I think, too, at different points in your life, just depending on where your mind's at. I've heard of people taking their kids to therapy and just kids won't talk at all. And that's hard because, with kids, it's like you want to keep trying to help them and everything. But man, if they won't say anything, or if anyone won't say anything, it's like with marriage therapy too. With us, it wasn't going to work because we both weren't committed to the same goal.
Yeah, totally. Well, I feel like we're getting towards the end of our Facebook Live. Monica, do you think there's anything else that we need to talk about as far as therapy, coaching, any of that?
No, I think that, Krista and I just always want to come to you guys with really raw content too, and how what we're doing maybe is what you're going through or is what you're feeling, or if you're thinking about going to a therapist, we always want to share our experience so that it helps you make a decision, whether it is to go to a therapist or whether it's to know that maybe I'm not therapyable right now and I need to wait a little bit, or I need to explore some other resources. So that's what we always hope to give to all of you.
Yes, but we do hope to break the stigma of therapy and just to know, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not fucked up. You're not broken. Like, you're actually strong and smart and resourceful. And I would love to see more people in this world working with therapists and coaches, because I mean, that's how you get to the top. That's how you get to the most successful version of yourself. Yeah.
Well, communication is really broken in our worlds, in our world, in a lot of ways, because we're all carrying so much shit, and when we carry all this stuff, it doesn't produce conducive conversations to solving things, because we're all acting from our own areas of hurt. And that's what causes defensiveness, or it causes us to not be objective a lot of times, because we're operating from something that happened that we haven't processed yet. So being able to process that and work through it, whether it's with a coach or a therapist or both, it not only helps you, it helps the world.
It does. Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, we want to tell you all about our newest group program, and it's actually starting tomorrow. So this is your last day to sign up. You may have seen us talk about it. It's called Speaker Space. We have 4 incredible coaches already enrolled. We have 2 more spots open, and we're looking to invite in only 2 more women. So we don't have that many spaces left. And we're looking for women, and this can be someone who identifies as a coach, a business owner, a speaker, an author. And we're looking for these 2 women who, or have a similar energy to Monica and I, that they have these life stories and these experiences and these messages, and they want to go out into the world and they want to share their truth with others as a way to really create an impact and help others on a bigger scale. Right? Like, I truly believe we go through things for a reason. And one of the most healing things that we can do for ourselves and others is to share our stories and to share it proudly and to own them. And so all the women that have enrolled in Speaker Space so far, they fit that description perfectly. Like, they all have these big life stories, and they're committed to now, really powerfully showing up in their business via, YouTube channels and podcasts and retreats and group programs and workshops. And they're going to use everything they know to share with their tribe and their audience as a way to, take their business and take their message to the next level. So, if you've been following Monica and I for a while, you really love how we just get on these Facebook Lives and we fucking own it and we talk about anything. And you're like, I want to do that. I want to be more like that. I have so much I feel like I need to share that would help people. Then you are meant to be in this program with us. And full disclaimer, I actually just finished our website. Well, I mean, it's not even fully finished. I finished the sales page for Speaker Space. So I'll drop it in the comments below so you can check it out. If there's typos or errors, I apologize. We'll fix those. But hey, what's our saying, Monica?
Perfect is the enemy of done. Thank you, Peter Lynch.
Yes, perfect is the enemy of done. We believe in taking messy action. So, and Monica and I have sold out many workshops and programs and retreats without having a website to this point, which is pretty awesome. But so I'm going to drop the website in the comments where you guys can check out more details, or you can private message me or Monica and, ask us questions and see if this is the right next step for you. We want to make sure it's just as good of a fit for you as it is for us, because we're going to be working together very intimately over the course of the next 6 months. We're going to be meeting with you for 2 weeks every Thursday. And oh my gosh, like, the results we're going to get, it's going to be so quick and so fast, because Monica and I are 2 professional certified coaches through the ICF, International Coaching Federation. We're really good at holding our clients accountable, calling them out on their bullshit and their stories, and helping them to find action plans so they can get started and stop making things a someday story. And what else do you want to add to all this, Monica?
Just heads up, one small typo correction, because Chris had said for 2 weeks we're doing it every Thursday. It's for 25 or 26 weeks that we're doing.
Oh, I meant to say for 2 hours. Sorry.
2 hours. Okay, that's all right. I was like, wait, let me make sure that you know that it's 6 months long, but it's okay. No, I think that we're, just calling in women who are ready to take it to the next level and who want an awesome support group to do that, and accountability partners, and just people who are going to help you get to where you want to get this year, because like it's not worth waiting another year. Like, ask yourself, where would you be a year from now if you were doing the same thing? Like, would you be happy, or would you wish that you would have started sooner?
Or even
And
6 months from now.
Yeah, even six. Exactly.
My favorite question is, do where you are right now today on a Wednesday afternoon, do you want to be in that same spot 6 months from now? And I don't want to say you can't do it on your own. I just know from personal experience, and I think Monica can agree, the reason, I feel really fucking successful at 34 years old, and being able to leave my nursing career and being able to, have an online coaching business to where I can support myself. And I wouldn't be in this place if I hadn't worked with amazing coaches and mentors and done group programs. And if I tried to do it all on my own, I would be going back into the nursing field immediately, because I would just give up on my dream.
Yeah. No, totally me with corporate. I get it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching and joining us and supporting us. And we so believe in you and in the gifts that you have to offer. And we want to help you to be the heroine in your own story and your business. And, we really want to work with you. So if you feel a pull, check out the website, message us, we'll get you set up, and you can jump in our first group call tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.